So this brings us to ethical research with humans. And whenever we conduct research, any research within the university, it must be approved by the Institutional Review Board, and we call that the IRB for short. The IRB consists of at least 5 people, and an IRB usually includes individuals drawn from the following groups: faculty affiliated with the institution that represent diverse academic disciplines that typically engage in research with human participants, non-scientist faculty affiliated with the institution, and community representatives with no formal institutional affiliation whose role is to represent the interest of the community and to bring an independent perspective. And if the IRB typically reviews research with prisoners, then you would need to have a community representative who have the sole responsibility to ensure that the rights of the prisoners are protected. For example, a public defender or a representative of a prison advocacy group. And non-scientist members bring a really important perspective to the IRB review processes because they may advocate the views of potential research participants more effectively than the scientist members might. IRBs have to be in place in order to receive federal funding for research, and they became very prevalent during the 1970s. There are some problems with IRBs. Even though they're important, you're going to always have conflicting requirements for the researcher and in order to produce meaningful results, and also for the IRB in respecting the rights and the welfare of the study's participants. So there is some major issues when you're doing research with humans, and obviously stress and harm has been identified as the most important issues when it comes to ethics in psychology. And this mainly comes from observation of stress and harm in previous research studies that are actually considered inexcusable today. The reason I had you view the particular video clip of the little Albert experiment that I did was not because it was the most professionally done, but because the person narrating the video, who I suspect is probably a psychology student somewhere, seems almost to admire Watson for his research and applaud its usefulness without looking at the horror of the damage that was possibly done to the child. And I don't know about you guys, but I have always been filled with horror and rage every time I'll even think about someone doing that to a toddler. I know the results have been groundbreaking and awesome, but at what cost to the subject? Milgram's study on obedience was one of the first studies that actually raised the issue of stress and harm and the need for ethics in psychology. He deceived the participants into thinking that the study was about learning when in fact it was about obedience to authority. And he was able to make the argument that without deception the experience would not have been the same and would have not have given the same results. So for the sake of science, it's considered acceptable. If you want to read more on deception in research, take a look at your ethics code and look at section 8.07 in that ethics code that you hopefully downloaded. But participants in this study still underwent severe stress when they were participating because they thought they had either seriously hurt or sometimes possibly killed someone by delivering high voltage electric shocks to their heart. So, and then there's Cameron studies, which you hopefully looked at. And those took place between 1957 and 1962. And he actually wiped out people's memories and sense of self with the experiments that he did in that instance. So there's been a significant amount of stress and harm done over the years. I'm going to stop here and we'll take up informed consent next.